Hey loves, welcome back to my channel. On today's video I'll be teaching you how to make this beautiful gown on your screen. If this sounds like what you're interested in, please keep on watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video, share and comment, and let's get right into this video. To make this dress you will need your fabric, and I have 2 yards of Ankara fabric with me, and also you will need a 2 knit, and I have about 10 yards of it right here with me. So I will start by rolling out a shoulder line. I will divide my shoulder measurement by 2, and I will mark it on my shoulder line. From the shoulder line, I will come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. I will go in by 3.5 inches for my neck width, and I will go ahead to draw my shoulder slope. Placing my tape on the shoulder slope, I will come down to my chest line, and I will connect it like so. I will also go ahead to roll it across. I'm going ahead to mark out my bust point, my under bust, my waistline. I will roll them across. Next thing I will do is to mark out my hip line, and to do that I will place my tape on my waistline, and then I will come down to my hip line 9 inches. I also went ahead to roll it across, and I will label it HL, which is my hip line. I will go ahead to mark half of my nipple to nipple measurement from my bust point, and I'll mark it all the way down to my hip line. I will use my straight rule to connect it into a straight line. On my waistline, I will take half inch on the both sides of the dart leg, and I will use my ruler to connect from the waist to my bust point, and then from the waist I will also connect it to the hip line. I will connect the other side of the dart as well. I will go ahead to take my round body measurement. On my chest line, I will divide my bust measurement by 4. I will mark it on the chest line. On my under bust, I will also divide my under bust measurement by 4. I will mark it. I will replace the dart I took out on my under bust. On my waistline, I will divide my waist measurement by 4. I will also replace the dart I took out on the waistline. On my hip line, I will divide my hip measurement by 4. I will connect all the measurement I just took right now. So from my shoulder line, I will come down to my neck depth. For the back neck depth, I will mark 1 inch, and for the front neck depth, I will mark 3.5 inches, and I will go ahead to connect it to my neck width like so. I'm going to use this pattern to cut out both the front and the back side of the dress. What I will do next is to come down from my hip line by 6 inches. From your hip line, come down by 6 inches, and then I will go ahead to roll it into a straight line. This is where we are going to be creating all the curls we have on the down part of the dress, and I'm going ahead to label it my total length. On that line, I will divide my hip measurement by 4 plus 1 inch in order to give it a little bit of A-line shape on that down part, and I will connect it to my hip line like so. I will go ahead to cut it out. So I will first of all separate the half length from the down part, and then I realize that I've not curved my armhole. I will find the midpoint of what I have on my shoulder slope to my chest line like so, and then I'll go inward by ½ inch. I'll use my curve rule to curve my armhole. Then I'll continue my cutting. I'll first of all cut out the back neckline. Then I'll keep it aside. I'll cut out the down part as well. So guys, after that, we are going to be working on the curve we have on the down part. And to do that, from my hip line, I will come down by 1 inch. So from the hip line, I'll come down by 1 inch. I don't want the curve to go all the way to the hip line. So after rolling it across, I'll bring half of my nipple to nipple measurement down to the hem of the paper, and then I will connect it like so. From the center of my pattern paper, I will go inward by half inch, just like you can see me doing on the screen. So guys, for you not to get confused, I went ahead to label my hip line. So I'm not working with the hip line, I'm working with the second line. So what I will do is to use my curve rule to connect that half inch I went in by to one side of my dart leg, as you can see. And then I will measure the distance I have in between that point. I will mark it on the other side of the dart leg. And then I will use my curve rule again to connect it to my dart leg. Just watch what I'm doing. So after getting the first curve, to get the second curve, I will go inward by half inch again. And then I will use my curve rule to connect it to the side, like so. So I will connect it to the side just like you can see on the screen. And that is all for the curve. So I will go ahead to cut it out. Just watch carefully the way I am cutting it out. So I will cut the other curve. And this is what I have. These are all my patterns. So I'm going ahead to fold my fabric into two. I will first of all cut out the back side of my dress, and I'm going ahead to mark 1.5 inches zipper allowance. And I'm going ahead to roll it into a straight line. So I'll bring the down part of the pattern. I'll add half inch on the upper part. On the sides, I'll add 2 inches for my stitching allowance. On the curve area, I'll just add half inch. On the down part, half inch. And I'll go ahead to cut it out. Note that I placed my pattern after the zipper allowance. I will go ahead to cut it out. And then I will slit my zipper allowance open. I will keep it aside. I'll also go ahead to pin the upper part. On the shoulder area, I'm adding half inch. On the armhole, 1/4 inch. On the sides, I'm adding my stitching allowance of 2 inches. On the down part, I'll add half inch. And then I'll go ahead to cut it out. I'm not adding any allowance on the neck area. And also note that I placed my pattern after the 1.5 inches zipper allowance. So from the back side, I will go in by half inch in order to avoid zipper bulge. And I'm going ahead to connect it like so. And I will go ahead to cut it out. I will keep it aside. So guys, I've gone ahead to pin my pattern again in order to cut the front side of the dress. On the upper part, I will leave half inch. On the down part, half inch. On the sides, I will mark out my stitching allowance of 2 inches. And then I will go ahead to add half inch on the cuff area. And after cutting it, I'll keep it aside. So for the upper part, I'll cut through the front neckline. On the sides, I'll add stitching allowance of 2 inches. On the armhole, 1/4 inch. On the shoulder, half inch. And my neckline remains the same, not adding any allowance on the neck area. Half inch on the down part. And then after cutting it out, I went ahead to trace all of them on my lining fabric. As you can see, I'm going to go ahead to join all my pieces together. So starting from the front side of my fabric, I'll place the lining on top of it. So I'll go ahead to chalk the areas I'm going to be stitching. On the neckline, I will stitch the neck area by half inch. On the sides, I will stitch it by half inch as well. On the both sides, I will stitch the neckline and also stitch the sides. I'll keep it aside. And for the back side, I'll also open it up. I will place my lining piece on it. I will stitch the neck area by half inch on the both sides of the back piece. On the sides, I will stitch it by half inch. On the zipper allowance area, I will also stitch it by half inch. And I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. On the zipper allowance area, half inch, and on the sides, half inch. I will go ahead to stitch the neckline, and then I will stitch the sides and the zipper allowance area. I will keep it aside. So for the down part, I will bring the front side of the down part. I will open it up. I will place my lining piece on it. So I'm only going to be closing the sides. So I'm going to go ahead to chalk it. I will stitch the sides by half inch, the both sides by half inch. So on the down part of the back side, I'll also place my lining piece on it. I will close the sides by half inch, the zipper area by half inch, and I'll repeat the same thing for the other side. And I'll go ahead and stitch it, and I'll be back. Welcome back, guys. I'm going ahead to stitch all the pieces together. So I'm going ahead to trim a little bit of the sewing allowance on the neck area of the front part, and then I'll flip it to the right side. I'll go ahead to iron it. I'll iron it flat. I will keep it aside. For the back upper part, I'll also trim a little bit of the allowance on the neck area. Then I'll turn it to the right side. I'll also give it a good press. After ironing it, I'll repeat the same thing for the other side of the back. So guys, I'm done ironing all the pieces together. So I'll take my dart. I folded the upper front part into two, and I'm marking out half inch I will use to join the shoulder. So from that point, I'll come down to my bust point, 10 inches. From the folded part of my fabric, I will go inward by half of my nipple to nipple measurement on the bust point, and I'll bring it down to my waistline. I will connect it into a straight line. And on the dart leg, I will take half inch on both sides. I will connect it to my bust point like so. I will go ahead to notch it so that it will reflect on the other side of the fabric. So I will go ahead to close my dart. I will keep it aside. For the back side, I will first of all mark out my zipper allowance, and then I'll use my ruler to roll it into a straight line. On the shoulder, I will mark half inch, and then from that point, I will come down to my chest line. I will roll it across. I will take half of my nipple to nipple measurement on my waistline and also on my chest line. Note that I took it after the zipper allowance, and then I went ahead to connect it into a straight line. On the dart leg, I will take half inch on both sides. I will go ahead to connect it to my chest line, just like you can see on your screen. And after that, I will go ahead to stitch my dart. I will repeat the same thing for the other side. I will keep it aside. Then from the down part, I went ahead to fold my fabric into two, and I will go inward by half of my nipple to nipple measurement, and I went down by 5 inches. I will go ahead to roll it into a straight line. On the waistline, I will take half inch on both sides of the dart leg. I will go ahead to connect it to the 5 inch I came down by. I will notch it so that it will reflect on the other side of the fabric. I will keep it aside. So for the back down part, I'll first of all mark my zipper allowance. I'll go ahead to roll it into a straight line, and then I'll mark half of my nipple to nipple measurement as well. For the back, I'll come down by 6 inches, and I'll go ahead to mark half of my nipple to nipple measurement as well. I connected it into a straight line. On the waistline, I will take half inch on both sides. So I'll go ahead to hold my dart. I will repeat the same thing for all the pieces. So guys, welcome back. I've gone ahead to hold my dart, and this is what it is looking like. I also went ahead to iron it. So what I will do now is to join the front and the back on the shoulder. I will open up the lining piece. I will join the shoulder right side facing right side, and I'm basically joining fabric to fabric and lining to lining. So I will go ahead to pin it down. Because after that, I'll go over to my sewing machine. I will stitch it by half inch, and I will repeat the same thing for the other side. I will also open up the lining piece, and then I will pin fabric to fabric and lining to lining. After pinning it down, I will also go over my sewing machine. I will stitch it down, and also I will bring the down part of my dress. I will turn it right side facing right side to the upper part. I will stitch the waist area by half inch, and for the back as well, I will bring the down part. I will match it up right side facing right side. I will go over to my sewing machine. I'll also close the waist with half inch. Welcome back, guys. I've gone ahead to turn the shoulder, and I also stitch the upper part to the down part, and this is what I have. You can see what I have. And I went ahead to pin my zipper allowance. You can see I use my pin to hold the zipper allowance area. I will go ahead to use a stitch to close the zipper allowance, and I will also attach my zipper to the back. And after that, I'll also arrange the front side of the dress. On the back side of the dress, I'll go over to my sewing machine. I'll shape the sides with my body measurement. Welcome back, guys. I've gone ahead to shape my dress, as you can see. The next thing I will do is to cut the down part of this dress, which is the net side, in order to complete the total length of my gown. From the shoulder, I will measure what I have here. I'll measure what I have, and I got 25 inches. So guys, the total gown length I'm working with is 57 inches. When I minus 25 inches from 57 inches, what I got was 32 inches. So I will use 32 inches to cut the down part of this dress. I've gone ahead to fold my net in such a way that I will be able to cut the down part. And like I said earlier in the beginning of this video, the net I purchased is 10 years. So after cutting the rough edge on the upper part, I will place my tape to cut out the down part of this dress, 32 inches. And please make use of your own measurement. I'll go ahead to cut it out. After cutting it, I decided to cut out another one. I went ahead to cut out two of it, and each of them is 10 years. So each of the knits is 10 years. So 10 years plus 10 years, when I join them on the side, it will become 20 years. So I'll go ahead to join it on the side, and I'll gather it. And to know the length of net I'm going to gather, I'll first of all measure what I have on the down part of the dress. Starting from the center back, I'll measure what I have. I'll keep following the curve, just like you can see me doing on the screen. When I get to the side, I'll turn it to the front side of the dress, and I'll continue measuring what I have on the cuffs. And when I get to the end of the tape, I will hold my hand there. I will start afresh again. I'll continue this measurement till I get to the center back again. So after measuring it, what I got was 88 inches. I got 88 inches on all the curves. So I'll go ahead to gather my net up to 88 inches. I've gone ahead to gather my net up to 88 inches, which is what I got on the down part of the upper part of the dress. So guys, to join it, I went ahead to open up the center back like so. As you can see, I open up the center back, and I'll bring my net. I will start joining it from the center back. I will first of all pin it down. So I'll continue pinning it, following all the curves on the down part. So guys, just take your time to do this. I'll continue pinning it, and when I get to one end of the curve, as you can see, when I get to one end of the curve, I'll pin it and I'll turn it to the other side, and I'll continue pinning. So guys, after pinning it, this is what I have on the right side. As you can see, this is what I have. So I'll just go over to my sewing machine. I'll stitch the down part, following all the curves like I explained earlier. Welcome back, guys. I'm gonna head to stitch it, and this is what I have. You can see how beautiful it is looking. You can see what I have. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to add my lining to it, and the length of the lining is what I have on the net part of my dress. I minus 1 inch from it, and I used it to cut my lining. And the weight of this lining is about 4 yards. And I also went ahead to close the lining. As you can see, I closed the lining, and then I'm going to turn my dress to the wrong side. I'll wear my lining on my dress. Like I said earlier, I stitched the side of this lining so it doesn't have any open side at all. This is the right side and this is the wrong side. I'm going to match the right side of my lining to the wrong side of my dress, as you can see, and I'll keep pinning it following the stitch I made earlier on the down part. As you can see, I'll continue pinning it following the stitch I made there, just like the same way I sew the net to my upper part. I will sew the lining following all the stitch I made earlier. I hope you understand. So guys, after that I'll sew it all round following all the curves, and after sewing it you will have something like this. So I'll go ahead to sew it and I will show you what next to do. Welcome back, guys. This is what I have. You can see how it is looking. You can see how neat this is looking. I turn my dress to the right side. This is what I have. You can see what the down part is looking like. So this is what my dress is looking like. And I also went ahead to attach a cap sleeve to my dress because I don't want it to be sleeveless. So guys, if you found this video helpful, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like, share, and if you have any question, please comment down below. Till I see you on the next one.